Well, good morning and welcome to today's webinar focusing on Malta, one of the financial centres that we track through our Global Financial Centres Index and other indices. I'm delighted to welcome today Dr. Bernice Buttigieg, Chief Strategy Officer and Secretary to the Board of Finance Malta, and Pierre Massa, Project Management Office Lead for Malta Financial Services Advisory Council, to provide us with an overview of what's happening at the moment in Malta and financial services. First, some words of thanks. I'd like to just take a moment to first of all introduce myself. It's Mike Wardle. I'm Chief Executive at the ZEN. We are able to run this series of webinars by the kind generosity of our sponsors. We do thank them for allowing us to range far and wide across economics, finance, technology, science, and a bit of history. We really are very grateful to them. The programme for this morning is quite simple. My job is to introduce and really get out of the way quite quickly so that we can hear our presentation from Bernice and Pierre. And then we'll have time for a Q&A session for about 15 minutes at the end of the webinar. For those of you who haven't used GoToWebinar before, the way you can ask a question is to go to the dashboard on your screen. There's a question tab. You can type in your question there. That will come to us so that we can field those. And you can put that question in or the comments that you want to make at any point during the presentation. So please don't wait till the end if you have a good thought. For those of you who do ask questions, we'll pass on your contact details to Bernice and Pierre afterwards, so that if there's a need for any further discussion or follow-up, that communication can take place. And the final piece of housekeeping for this morning is to say that the session is being recorded. It'll be live up on our website in a couple of days' time, so that if there's a need for you to go back and refresh your memory as to what was said, or you want to share the link to the recording with friends and colleagues, there'll be the opportunity to do that. So I'd just now like to introduce our speakers today, Dr. Bernice Buttigieg, Chief Strategy Officer, Secretary to the Board of Finance Malta, Pierre Massa, the Project Management Office Lead for Malta Financial Services Advisory Council. We're delighted to have you with us. Over to you for your presentation.
Good morning. Thank you, Mike, for your kind introduction. So today we'll be talking about Malta's financial services industry. And then we can start immediately with the introduction of Finance Malta, which is the organization basically I represent. Finance Malta is a public-private initiative which was set up to promote Malta's international financial centre. Essentially, it is a joint effort between the government of Malta and the local financial services industry, which was set up some 16 years ago in 2007. And the remit, as I said, is to promote Malta's financial centre. We are a member-based organization as well. We have some 200 member firms. So it is a company which is a member of ours. And essentially, all the individuals working within that company work closely with us to promote Malta's financial services industry. We do a lot of activities, both in Malta as well as outside Malta. Outside Malta, we promote through the digital fora. Primarily, our website is a good first port of call. But also, we are very active in our social media, be it LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And we have a very good following in all these social media channels. I didn't mention YouTube, where we have a number of podcasts that are recorded. And there you will find essentially all information that you can think of with respect to any service and product that is relevant to this industry. We do organize our own events, but we also sponsor third-party initiatives. And just this year, we contributed to some 39 promotional initiatives all over the world. So essentially, we're mostly present in Europe, and in closer jurisdictions, but we also reach out to the US, Asia, and other regions in the world. Our mission is to increase the visibility of Malta as an international financial centre, thereby enhancing business opportunities to our members by which the industry can sustain its growth traction. We are a very small team, just a team of 5 people, but we do our best to be present and available to whoever needs to learn more about Malta's financial services industry. Next, please. Can I have the next slide? Okay, so I'll be talking a bit about Malta and Malta's value proposition. For those of you who don't know where Malta is, in the next slide, I'm showing the positioning of Malta because we do take it for granted that everybody knows where Malta is. Well, essentially, Malta is the smallest EU jurisdiction. It is positioned between south of Sicily and Northern Africa, and to the east there is Asia. So we are in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. If we can have the next slide, we can see it more visible. So that is the map. The orange arrow shows exactly the positioning of Malta in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. And this helps to understand Malta's strategic position, not only now in the case of also financial services, but also our history, where Malta always played a very important role in that kind of positioning. So if we refer to our 7,000 years of history, Malta was conquered by many conquerors: Carthaginians, Phoenicians, Arabs, Romans. So everybody felt and recognized the importance of being in Malta because of its strategic positioning. Of course, financial services is less of a physical presence. You can do it also digitally, but the positioning also and always remains essential. So in the past, in history, for those of you who don't know, have no idea about Malta's history, we even have temples which predate the Egyptian pyramids. And then later on, Malta was used as the hospital of the Mediterranean. It is where they used to store the food and the medicines during World War II. So the positioning is extremely important. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's just have a quick look about the population and the area. We are almost 500,000 people living on this tiny island with an area of just 316 square kilometers. Pretty dense, pretty small, but you will understand that we have used the fact that we're small to our advantage. On the one hand, you can say that being small might be a disadvantage because the markets are small. But on the other hand, we don't consider ourselves to be a population of just 500,000, but more of a market, part of a market of forming part of the EU, and that has made us a bigger market because thanks to the passporting rights that exist once we're a member of the EU, that has opened up our market to a larger audience. So we have used our smallness to our advantage to be more nimble, to be more connected, and to achieve things in a faster way. As I said, we are a member of the EU. We joined the EU in 2004, and Malta had one of the most seamless transition with respect to adopting the euro as a currency. In essentially 4 years, we've adopted the euro, and we had that introduced in January 2008. We do have 2 official languages, our own language, Maltese, which is basically a Semitic language written in the Latin alphabet. So we have a mix of both. And the Maltese were always clever to try and get the best of all worlds. And this is one of our masterpieces. We're quite innovative in this respect, that we have a Semitic language written in the Latin alphabet. So that means that we're pretty much understood by both the Arab and the Latin world. And having English, of course, as one of our official languages is also extremely important for us, because even our legislation is in English as well as in Maltese. And if there is a difference in translation, so translation issues between the Maltese and the English language, it is usually the English language which prevails in a court of law in this field of financial services. So the English language would prevail in that respect. We do have a wide range of double taxation agreements with leading jurisdictions. In fact, we have around 80 double taxation agreements. And this has also helped us in our business relations. The time zone, our time zone is Central European time zone. So communication, again, with different parts of the world make it pretty easy to do so. Can we have the next slide, please? So what are Malta's key strengths? We are a diversified and dynamic economy, and this has helped us in trying times, like when there was a financial crisis, during COVID. The fact that our economy was always pretty much diversified and dynamic has helped us counter any difficulties that were being experienced on a global level. Our economy kept on growing stronger. In fact, it has been recently ranked as the strongest economy in terms of growth. We also have a comprehensive and legal regulatory framework. Our laws are pretty much based, because we were conquered by Britain before our independence in 1964. Most of our legislation was based on the common law system, but also we have even older traditions and older legal frameworks based on the civil law. So again, we have different legal frameworks. In particular, however, in company law, it's mostly based on the common law framework. Needless to say, when we joined the EU, we transposed all the EU legislation, and therefore our laws are all aligned with the EU. And we didn't stop at that, but we also kept on innovating and trying to be as innovative as possible in terms of law. Being a small jurisdiction and being very limited in terms of natural resources, our focus was always on the human resource, on the knowledge, on the skills, and on the innovation that such people can bring with them. So this is an area where Malta always focused its efforts on, where it focuses its resources and its money. And in fact, we do have free education for Maltese citizens, to encourage as many citizens as possible to continue their education without having any obstacles in the way in that respect. Besides free education, we also have free healthcare, and a number of other support systems to support the citizens and certain residents in Malta. We do have one single regulatory body, the MFSA, the Malta Financial Services Authority, which was set up in 2002. And we've seen exponential growth in the number of employees in that authority, starting from just a few handful employees, and now there are over 400 employees working there, and it's still growing and growing at a very fast pace. The good thing of having one single regulator for all the financial services regulated business, again, is the fact that there is more communication, more coordination, and therefore it would be possible to be more agile. So essentially having one regulator is to our advantage, and it is also a pro-business regulator. And this is something that we keep on hearing from investors and companies that set up in Malta when we ask them, what led you to set up in Malta? Why did you come here? And this is always top on their list. Having a regulator who listens to them, who understands them, who adapts to their requirements, depending, of course, and keeping in line with international and European regulatory standards. We have a strong focus on innovation. And here in particular, I must mention the certain products like the PCC, the Protected Company, which is a product used in the insurance industry, very particular to the captive insurance industry. And this is where Malta came up with its own product, which is unique in Europe. Another innovation in Malta was the setting up of the VFA, the Virtual Financial Assets Act, in 2018, where we were leaders in this respect in regulating digital assets, cryptocurrencies. Back then, there wasn't much knowledge in regulating this field. But essentially, our regulator was forthcoming, wanting to learn more, wanting to adapt to the way that the industry was developing. And this has put us at the forefront of regulating this growing industry. Of course, now this is an area which is very recently starting to be regulated at the European level. We have the MiCA, which will be effective next year. And of course, we have the advantage of already having experienced such regulation and understanding the sector better. So in this area, we can also see more interest in Malta because the regulator understands this area more and more. And it is also an area where, even though we're a very small jurisdiction, the European supervisors and authorities are looking at Malta and learning from the experience that our regulator has achieved to help them understand the sector more and more and to guide them as to the way forward as well. So here we've positioned ourselves as leaders in this field. Political and economic stability is, of course, very important. I must say, in the financial services industry, I mean, we're a bipartisan House of Representatives. So essentially, there are two political parties representing the people of Malta at that level. And both parties are very much aligned on the policies and way forward in the financial services industry. And we haven't seen major divergence in policies or in directions in this respect. It is a cost-competitive environment. Of course, costs increase in Malta as they increase elsewhere. We are lucky to have a government who has decided to keep inflation as much as possible under control, okay, by providing certain safeguards and taking it up on itself to control the inflation from increasing even more, especially by helping in the fuel industry. So essentially, when it comes to costs, yes, they have increased, but we're still very much competitive when you compare it with other continental European jurisdictions. And this is another area, therefore, where we can compete with other jurisdictions. Highly educated and cosmopolitan workforce, of course. I mentioned the free education, but it is not only that. We do have essentially three kinds of schools in Malta: the private schools, the church schools, and the government schools. So people can choose from the kind of schooling that they want. The government schools are free for all, whereas the church schools would usually be upon a small donation, and private schools are paid schools. But even the private schools are supported heavily by government, and therefore the costs are also kept at a minimum. So we have the University of Malta, where a good number of students go up to the university level and go on up to master's and PhD level as well. And we also have some other universities that have recently set up in Malta as well. Next slide, please. So here we put the ratings of the main rating agencies. We can see that there is a stable outlook, and we're very positive that this stable outlook will remain for the next couple of years. Next. What differentiates Malta from certain other jurisdictions is the fact that you don't only find business here, and those who appreciate history and heritage would definitely find loads to see in this tiny island. As I said, we were conquered by different conquerors, and each conqueror left a mark or left an imprint in this island. The Knights of Malta have left certain jewels, buildings and cathedrals that are priceless. So it is a paradise when it comes to history, and all within reach. So in a few days, you'll be able to go around and see all these historical jewels in Malta. We mentioned the location. It is a Mediterranean island, so the Mediterranean lifestyle is also very much felt on this island. We work very hard, but we like to enjoy ourselves as well. We like to travel, and of course, the envy of many jurisdictions is that we have loads of sunshine throughout the year, maybe too much now, and therefore we miss some clouds and some rain. Today, in fact, is one of those very few days where we should be experiencing some clouds and rain, and we're looking forward to that. But essentially, you will find that we can balance work and enjoyment in a very short time, because everything is within reach, and therefore you can go to the beach, you can have a yacht, you can visit a historical place in essentially very, very few hours. Extensive flight network, of course, being an island, we need to be very well connected. We're essentially connected with our main airline, Air Malta, which will soon come to an end, but we'll be seeing a new airline coming as of March. And we're also connected through ferries, particularly the ferry that crosses to Sicily. And from there, then one can travel up and throughout Europe. And of course, we have a thriving cruise port. Being in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, it makes sense for us to be a cruising destination, but also Malta is very attractive for yachts and super yachts. So you will find a lot of marinas and a thriving yachting industry as well. Next. So we're building on a solid foundation. We have groundbreaking legislation, I've mentioned, certain legislations where we were innovative. We will keep on looking, and Pierre will delve more into this about what Malta is doing to remain innovative and keep our activity in this respect. It is important to have a robust regulatory framework infrastructure. We acknowledge the global standards and European standards and the importance for transparency and having everything up to scratch. We do have our tax laws that were approved by the OECD and the EU. And of course, we will align ourselves to new developments in this regard as well. And we are constantly seeking responsible growth in this sector. Of course, digitalization is very important in this field. ESG is something which cuts across all the sectors in this industry. And again, we are looking at ways to also encourage the industry to factor ESG into their products and their services, and keep being innovative in this respect. Next slide. So these are the main financial sectors. I said our industry is very diversified and dynamic, and this shows the diversified sectors that we have. So essentially, we have investment funds and assets management. We have credit and financial institutions, insurance and reinsurance. We cater for family offices and private wealth, FinTech and capital markets. These are the leading sectors in our economy in terms of financial services. And this is what we want to support and grow even further. Of course, in the fund and assets management, there are a range of funds, possibilities, and fund managers and fund administrators. It is good to know that funds in Malta can even use fund administrators in other jurisdictions, so they already have their service provider who they feel most comfortable working with in another jurisdiction. Then we did not close off competition in this respect, but we tried to facilitate matters for the funds to be able to operate also from Malta. We have UCITS products, we have the alternative investment funds, and we are launching a new product, the notified PIF, the notified professional investor funds, where basically it would have a bit of a less regulation, even though there's oversight by the regulator, but essentially it will speed up the time to market, because basically the regulator would have 10 days to allow this. So in 10 days, the time to market will be pretty fast. And this includes a notification procedure. But if you want to know more about this, there'll be more information on our website, and we can provide you with more information through our other information channels. The credit, if we can go back, I will talk a bit more about the other sectors in terms of credit and financial institutions. The banking industry is, well, we have around 22 banks in Malta. The market is small, but we are not really after attracting banks to service the local industry, but more in terms of trade finance and other services that can be provided to support the other sectors. We are experiencing growth in the payments industry and the financial institutions, and that is an area where we're seeing more growth, and we're quite keen to support this sector to grow even further. In the insurance and reinsurance side, we do have some developments there as well that we're working on, particularly on the insurance-linked securities. But something which is attractive mostly is the captive insurance industry and the protected cell company, which I already said that is unique to Malta within the EU as a fully fledged member state. We do have some very large captive insurance companies of large corporations, be it the Volkswagen, the Peugeots, and the big names in Malta. And this is an area which we're also keen on seeing growing in the coming years. Family offices and private wealth, besides having, of course, the funds that cater for this particular industry, we also have a very well-established aviation and yachting, private yachts in Malta. So these, together with other products like the trusts and the foundations, will provide the right products and the right infrastructure for family offices to consider in setting up Malta or using it for back office operations or other kind of support services. FinTech is again another very much growing sector. We're very keen on this, and there's a lot of support both from Malta Enterprise, the Malta's Economic Development Agency, which provides guidance and support, and also financial support to startups in this regard. There are sandboxes that are available, both regulatory sandboxes and technology sandboxes from the regulators that help startups to test their products within a limited time before they actually delve into their main product. So it gives them time to test their product before actually launching it to the market. And capital markets, again, is another growing area. We have a Malta Stock Exchange where listing takes place. There are some 110 companies that are listed on the Malta Stock Exchange, and we are delving into the possibility of having more internationalization and more foreign listings being listed into the Malta Stock Exchange, because so far the listings are all local listings, and therefore the risk is more curtailed in that respect. Next slide. We are a small country, but we punch above our weight. We're among the top 20 global financial centers in the Smart Centers Index, produced by ZYN. We're among the top performers FinTech ecosystems, and also 6th in Digital Economy and Society Index. So we're doing pretty well, especially from the technical digitalization side. We also ranked first in the e-government services from within the EU. So we feel that we have the necessary technical skills and know-how to be able to take this industry to the next level, where digitalization and technology know-how will be essential for the growth of the economy. Next, please. Okay, we've provided some figures here just to give you an overview of what this industry includes. We have 51 financial institutions, over 2,000 authorized entities, 21 credit institutions as at March 2023. GDP growth is looking pretty well, and unemployment rate is very low. I believe is the lowest we've seen so far in recent years. So we definitely do not have a problem with unemployment. On the other hand, we need more resources, more human resources to supply the workload and the opportunities that there are. Next. We've listed here the financial milestones, most of which I've alluded to during my presentation. So I will not repeat, but essentially you can see how the development took place from 1988, where we had the first corporate and trust legislation. 2002 was very much important for the setting up of the regulatory authority. Of course, 2004 was important for us to open the market possibilities. The adoption of the euro was another milestone in 2008. 2023 was this year. Earlier on this year, we launched the strategy for financial services, and obviously we look to the future with great hope and a lot of keenness to take this to the next level. Next. So essentially, I will leave it up to Pierre now to take you a bit through the strategy, which, as I said, we launched in March. Pierre is the leader of the project management office. He is managing the implementation of this strategy, and therefore he'll be able to brief you on what has happened in this respect and what is happening and what is expected to be seen in the next few years. I'll leave it to you, Pierre.
Thank you, Bernice. Thank you very much. So the Malta Financial Advisory Council was set up in 2021 with the express intent of really bringing together government, the regulators and private operators to create a coherent long-term strategy for financial services. This brought together essentially over 100 industry professionals and stakeholders who worked together to actually create the strategy. So it is a very unique starting point in terms of what we were looking to do. From the very start, the intention was to focus on building on Malta's strengths as an already established jurisdiction, while also facing up to some of the weaknesses and challenges that we really recognized were there. The strategy itself, I'm being a bit quick to just I realize we're trying to make up time. The strategy sets out a very clear vision and direction for the future and really identifies a number of areas where we can drive change. This is supported ultimately with over 175 specific initiatives that have been identified, and some of which, in fact, that Bernice mentioned are already in the process of implementation. Our ultimate objective was to leapfrog ahead, making up for lost ground, and also going ahead in terms of leveraging aspects such as digitization, AI, and a number of those areas to really move ahead of the pack in terms of our positioning. The strategy itself outlines a very specific long-term vision for Malta to be recognized as a competitive, secure, and credible jurisdiction for financial services that excels in innovation and responsiveness through a nimble and joined-up regulatory framework and robust technology foundation. So we're really playing on our strengths there in terms of our size, being nimble, being connected, and being able to move forward quickly, and also leveraging a robust technology framework. As you can see, our primary drivers behind the strategy are speed, mostly driven through efficiency, reflected in decision-making, and permeating all aspects of servicing, licensing, regulating, and implementing the processes that we have. Standards, and by standards we mean clarity and defined expectations as relates to standards for all of the agencies and regulators, ensuring consistency in the way compliance is handled and any irregularities are managed. That is really critical. It is really critical for the businesses that we're trying to attract as well. Simplification, logical and standardized business processes and technology enabled to ensure seamless workflow, alignment across entities, and ensuring, for example, that we only ask operators the same question once, not 3 different times from 3 different sources. Specialization, a recognition that Malta cannot be all things to all people, and that we need to develop our niches and areas of focus to be sustainable. And when we talk about sustainability beyond the traditional interpretations of sustainability, we also mean that this is a strategy that the island, including government, industry, and all stakeholders, are committed to sustain over time so that we can actually realize the change. Next slide, please. Ultimately, we were looking around 5 strategic objectives. The first is to streamline regulation. This trust is an effort to align and integrate to a largest extent possible the regulatory institutions, including the MFSA, which Bernice referenced, but also the Malta Business Registry, our financial watchdog, the Financial Intelligence Analysis Unit, to facilitate timelines, consistency, and proportionality across all of our regulatory aspects. The standardization of payments is another critical priority, working with the Central Bank Payments Hub to create a more efficient national system for money transfers with greater transparencies in terms of the end flows of funds, and also increasing the ability to better track and manage STRs through the process. Consolidating identity, again, as we're looking at heightened regulation and heightened securities and anti-money laundering regulation, it's essential to facilitate the due diligence processes via a consistent and foolproof identity system that captures shareable data, ensuring accurate, updated, single point of reference for each of the entities and individuals doing business in Malta. Modernizing taxation, both in terms of the way that our tax administration works, but also in terms of the actual tax system's alignment with the international thrusts and the thrusts of both the OECD and the European Union. Reforming financial law, this has been a key advantage for us over time, and we're looking at introducing new changes in this area to make the Maltese jurisdiction more attractive, and finally building talent and capability. This is a key challenge for us. We have a number of areas where we are looking for talented individuals to fill roles, and the key is to be able to do that more effectively. The next slide, please. So we've looked at the way implementation is driven around kind of 3 tranches of initiatives or initiative types. Primarily centralized identity management, as I mentioned, the digital payments hub, regulatory process integration and digitization, and law reform and harmonization. These are the big drivers that we're driving towards. New opportunity areas for growth: FinTech, aircraft leasing, family offices, and employer pensions. We're doing things in all of these areas, but we're looking to dial them up. And finally, the supporting requirements of taxation, human resources and education, and sustainable finance. I could talk for a lot longer, but I know we're really tight on time, so I will stop my remarks there and hand over back to Bernice.
Thank you, Pierre. No, essentially, we would like to, if you're interested to learn more, because we had limited time, in our next slide, we're inviting you to join us at the Guildhall London, where essentially on the 4th of December, we'll be coming over there, meeting the industry in London. There'll be the Minister for Finance, there'll be the regulator, the main regulatory bodies, the Malta Business Registry, the Malta Stock Exchange, all the service providers will be there. So if you'd like to learn more about Malta, to network, please do scan the QR code. This is essentially going to be a networking reception, 6 to 9, not very long, a few speeches by our chairman, by Mr. Joseph Mittabona, who's heading the Malta Financial Services Advisory Council, Lord Marland, and the Minister for Finance. And then we'll be happy to see you there. So if you're interested, do scan the QR code and register your interest. Do get in touch with us because you require a code to be able to register. So if you need that code, get in touch with us and we'll give you the code. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Bernice and Pierre. We are, I'm afraid, out of time. So just very briefly to thank our sponsors who, as I mentioned before, just allow us to range widely over the information and knowledge topics that we cover in our webinar series. Just looking ahead, we have tomorrow the launch of the next edition of the Smart Centres Index, which I'm sure Bernice will be looking at carefully. On Friday, one of the sessions we're running as part of the Knowledge Miles series, Lord Chancellor Jeffreys, a revisionist view of his role as a Common Sergeant and Recorder of the City of London, and then on Monday a session on capital as a powerful force for global impact. So do keep an eye on the website for upcoming events. Just remains for me to say thank you very much indeed to Bernice and Pierre for that overview of the current state of Finance Malta. If you didn't catch the QR code, then you can go to the web page for this event and you'll find that the slides are available to you there as a PDF, so you can grab the QR code from there if you haven't managed to grab it on screen. Many thanks again for your attendance. Thank you to our speakers. We'll see you again shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.